Hello, everyone, and welcome to Be Bold, Fierce, Unstoppable. I'm your host, Zach Lyotis. And today's podcast, we have Ken Hannaman. He came from a little to nothing in his life, now achieving complete ambience and success. He has discovered the power and mindset and belief that led him to this point. He loves taking a special focus on the law of attraction. He taught these lessons in his professional career as he's in the people development, learning, and growing facilitation position. Ken has been teaching and developing others for 24 years and wishes to bring his life experience and learnings to as many people as possible so that more can discover how mindset matters in your personal and professional lives. Welcome, Ken, to the podcast.
Thank you, Zach, for having me. Excited to be here. And thanks for that introduction as well, too. I'll try to live up to the bill as best as I possibly can for your audience. But let's see where the universe takes this conversation. I'm excited to be here.
I'm sure you have it all in the bag. Come on now. It's all a mindset curve here, Ken.
It is. And I love to talk. So I am a very big people person and love to just share the insight that I think the universe is granting me so that it can help others. And that's what I'm here for.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, this is the most incredible conversations we can have because especially in the time that we're living in today, people's minds are all over the place. There's confusion, there's distraction, there's fear, a lot of fear, as you know, all these things are going on. So mindset is clear. As I'm saying this, I'm getting goosebumps all over my body. So everyone has heard the law of attraction. And I want to get into this. Like right away, Spirit's like, no, let's stop talking about, let's get right into this. All right. So let's just get right into it. Because we hear about the law of attraction and you think it's spirituality and it's the laws of the universe. And then people say, no, but it's a mindset shift. So first, let's go down the rabbit hole of what's the difference between spirituality and mindset or personal development?
Well, I'll say personal development is always trying to better yourself. I'm a lifelong learner. I teach lifelong learning. And I think spirituality plays a component in that avenue. But obviously, personal development can go to all different kinds of walks of life. And I like to take it down to spiritual twists and turns, if you will, because when we look at our lives and how we manifest our own realities, I don't think enough people have really stepped back to observe that their thoughts is where it all begins. Their mindset is what frames up their reality of how they interpret life, live life, believe life, and then of course that creates the action that they take in life. So a lot of what I teach is law of attraction based, but science is beginning to prove a lot of these things through. We are all energy. We are a part of this universe. We come from the minerals, the protons, the neutrons, the electrons of the universe. They make up matter, physical matter that we are as well too. And our thoughts are energy. And that energy that we put out is like a frequency that comes back to us. So I really came into it with probably before The Secret was released. I started to do a lot of the internal work and development in my own life. It started off with a book actually from a friend that recommended that he and I read it together. It was called Is Belief in God Good, Bad, or Indifferent? And it was just two friends bantering back and forth on email that they decided to publish a book out of. And the one author, I forget his name, but he is the lead singer of a famous band. Bottom line is that, Bad Religion, that's the name of the actual band. So the irony of Bad Religion being a part of that topic. Anyways, that book led me down many different trails of internalization that started me to come into alignment with, wow, we are creating our realities through our thoughts. We are not our thoughts, but that's where it all begins. So it led me down that path of just continuously trying to discover more. And that self-development can go down many different avenues. For me, I want to frame it up with the spirituality aspect first of trying to figure out how we're manifesting our own lives. Because if you can figure out that piece, then real self-development carries through from that point.
Yeah, very true. Ooh, great answer. Great answer. That was great.
I appreciate it. I will speak from my own truth and experiences. I'll always say that too, is that I teach people that your own truth will come from your own experiences. What I talk about, I've experienced in my life. So it's very easy for me to speak with authenticity towards it because it is my truth. Until people experience these things, they're just perspectives. They may sound good, but you have to actually experience them to really believe them. Faith is one thing, but experience becomes truth, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can't experience it, you'll never understand it. You'll never know what it feels like when your body's vibrating, or if you have like a golden light going through your body. You might think someone is crazy, but it's happening to all of us all the time. Some people just don't give it any awareness or attention to realize how strong and powerful they are because their mind is in a different set. So let's go back to what brought you into self development or law of attraction or spirituality or spiritual work, I should say.
Yeah, so kind of a funny story. So I'm still kind of hybrided, if that's a word, bridged between two worlds right now. I'm in the corporate space. I am responsible for about 700 quick service restaurants here in the US. And through that time of my life, 20 plus years of being in the restaurant space, it's a people-based business.
Mhm.
I always like to say it just happens to be people based serving food. Yes, food is what people are coming from, but if you don't have great people set up in that business, you're not going to be very successful in any walk of life. So, thankfully, in my own learnings, I realized how to heavily lean into people to make them their best selves so that they in turn can grow along with you and not just see themselves as a cog in the wheel, so to speak. Not everybody aligns with that, but if you can really show people that you care about them and you're willing to invest and teach and help them grow, then that helps them buy in. So I got very, very accustomed to that teaching aspect. And it really all started with myself because if you peel back all the layers of how my beginnings started, I'm a high school dropout. I walked away due to a bad point in my life. Always did well in school, didn't really like the environment that I was a part of. And having getting brought into the fast food space, it gave me an escape. It gave me a purpose. And I did have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder to prove to people that I wouldn't be a statistic. I would still make it in life, whatever making it means. And I wanted to grasp a hold of the people that were in that industry that many don't feel that they have a future with. So as I began to climb that corporate ladder and employ a lot of the successes that I was learning to help other people, it helped propel me up. So in a sense, I wanted to give back and help people in that industry. All of that led and intertwined with my own spiritual enlightenment. So as I began to do a lot more research beyond just helping people be better people and pulling together all the pieces of the interconnectedness of what we are and how life works, in my opinion, I said, I can't stop learning about this. I have to get more of it. So I brought within reason, without crossing any kind of boundaries of people, that perspective of law of attraction like teachings to people to begin to understand mindset. And that just led me to a point now where I said, I'm going to continue to keep doing what I'm doing in the corporate space until I can't anymore. My real passion is around helping people. It helps me in my restaurant business, but ultimately, what I do every day is the improvement and self development of myself, as well as those around me become their best selves. So, today, I'm also a possibility mindset coach, which is all about the mindset piece and teaching people, yes, law attraction based, but really how thought manifestation works and how we can literally become our best selves through that belief system. So that's the long, twisted, windy road of where I'm at. So 24 years into my professional career, I'm on a bridge between two worlds, the corporate America restaurant space and the possibility mindset aspect of what I do as well too.
Yeah, I've been in the restaurant industry for about 27 years before I walked out. Well, I didn't even walk out. Spirit ended it for me because that's
There
how
you go.
Spirit does. Spirit says, no more restaurant for you. You got to start teaching this stuff to people. So I totally get it. You definitely need like good people in the industry or you won't have people coming in to pay your bills. So I totally get that. Let's get into talking about the mind. Let's talk about mindset 101 or mindfulness 101, how to get into that place to really connect to your manifestations that you want to bring in.
Yeah, I love talking about this. So I've read about it. I define my own interpretation of what it means to come into the proper alignments
Mhm.
of seeing your life and having good guidance. It can't just all of a sudden be a switch you turn on. It's not hard, but it does have some centered focus around what I call the mind heart connection. You can even include the gut. So the gut instinct, people talk about that intuition. Here's what I know. It doesn't all start up here. It's not all the brain. And that's where I think a lot of people think that their lives are created from is their thoughts, which is definitely a big piece of it. But if you can bring yourself into the right, genuine, authentic, high integrity care and come from a place of non-egoic perspective, to
Mhm.
where as long as you've got some base essentials met in your life, you can refer to Maslow's hierarchy of needs of you've got a safe place to live, you've got food and shelter. If you can check those boxes, I believe everything else that comes to you is icing on the cake. So
Mhm.
instead of being greedy with that egoic want and need, you put in that genuine intention of wanting to better yourself through others, and vice versa, have them better you as well too. So
Mhm.
through some mindful practiceness or mindful practices of being able to keep that heart brain connection aligned, that's how I believe we come into more connectedness with the universe, with the source, with the spirit, with our higher selves. It is that becoming present in that mindset of that heart brain connection with the right level of authenticity and care that you turn on those light switches, that you're able to see, receive messages that are divine in a sense to help you be placed in the right places of time, to where, as I always say, I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I've watched my life too many times unfold with too many coincidences that are mathematically improbable at this point. So am I perfect? No, I'm human, but that's where it all begins, in my opinion, as far as my experiences have taught me.
Yeah. Actually, no one's perfect and there's no such thing as perfect. So if you think that you're a perfectionist, you have to get it perfect, just let me tell you this, you're lying to yourself. You're
Yep.
just flat out lying to yourself at the end of the day. I want to talk about the conscious and subconscious mind because I had to go through a lot of things where people say it's the energy that you're carrying within you. And some bad things have happened to me. I was like, well, I don't think of these things. I've never thought of these things. So how am I attracting these things? And there's something called the subconscious mind. And I still can't figure it out how I attracted certain things in my life because I never talked about them, thought about them, spoke about them, or felt them. So that's a big mystery how things have happened to me in that case. But the almighty man upstairs always does things that we maybe have to learn from, obviously. So let's talk about the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, because right there we would have conscious thoughts that we're aware of. But what I find when we're talking about law of attraction, it is the subconscious mind that we have to really heal and work through in order to start creating that life that we want to create. So for anyone that doesn't understand how they both kind of coexist with one another, and the super conscious mind, that's another factor that we could look at. So how does one work through all these three-tier minds that we have when only we're aware of one?
Oh, such a great question, Zach. Probably one of the biggest ones that I think if we really try to understand and unpack, it's not an easy nut to crack. I'll give you my best interpretation that I possibly can. And I've always seen this nice depiction of the conscious, the subconscious, the unconscious. You have an iceberg. You've got the consciousness piece that's above the water, the part that you can watch your thoughts with. The unconscious or subconscious is like the program running underneath. And like you said, you may not even have consciously known that you have a certain deeper, darker issue that needs to be addressed. It could be a forgotten, repressed part of your life that goes back to childhood. I believe it can even go back into past lives. And I
Yeah.
know that that can be places of controversial discussion for some people's belief systems, and that's quite okay. I'm not here to tell anybody what to believe, but the more study I do, I was raised Catholic and I was raised in a belief system that says that's not possible. So it took me to probably my early 30s to begin to research that. And the more I look at it, there is so much more proof positive out there that we live multiple lives. Whether or not we're forced back in or we choose to come back in, don't have those answers. We may not ever have those answers in this physical form. I think one day we'll get those answers when we're not in physical form. But regardless, it is about the repressed parts of us that could be parts of our soul from different aspects of life that we can't remember, from past lives that are carried over. The trick to it, I wouldn't say trick, the key to it is to become mindful enough to go within, to spend some thoughtful reflection, asking the universe, asking your higher self, once that heart brain connection is attuned properly, where do I need to focus? Where do I need to put the attention? How can I heal this? And in a lot of ways, you read about people facing their fears head on, that as long as you keep running and repressing What you resist persists. You have to find a way to lead them head on. But if you don't know what they are, you got to start with that. Asking sincerely through intention. It may come to you in dreams, in my experience. It may come to you in profound messages right in front of you. Sometimes they're more subtle, but you will begin to intuitively feel what it is you have to act on. And that's where it has to take place. It has to start with that intention, that connection to a higher place, being observant and understanding, okay, I know what I have to do in order to reprogram this underlying system that is the subconscious and the unconscious that runs behind the layers 24/7. It helps influence the conscious thought. So it is where a lot of the work has to be done. And there's different ways individually to work on this. I'm not an expert at it. I study this and teach it, but ultimately there are professionals who can, through different levels of um, work and hypnosis, find ways to try to pull back those layers and see what those issues are. That's my best way to try to explain it. And again, I'm still a work in progress. I'm sure that my subconscious and unconscious needs to have some levels of focus, but I've been able to persevere through a lot of points in my life by addressing what I believe to be some of those challenges.
Yeah, if you can't put a name to it, you cannot heal it, right? And yeah, absolutely. Things do come from past life. When I did my research on it, I've studied my past lives for a very long time because I was very confused at people asking me the question, do you know who you are? And this and this. And I was like, well, this is who I am. They said, no, you have to go deeper in that. So I studied myself for many years and I've seen many things happen to me. So it could be from a past life when I uncovered it, but I didn't get right to the point of where in my past life that happened, because I know it wasn't in this present lifetime or as of a childhood. So you talked about previously when you drop your head into your heart. So for those that don't understand that terminology, what exactly is that?
Well, it's really about framing up that right love intention. So let me try to peel back some more layers here. I believe in, if you've heard of Dr. David Hawkins' Power versus Force book, he speaks about the human levels of consciousness. And how I try to explain this heart brain connection is that there are certain aspects of consciousness we have to get to first. You're not going to ever find many people, I haven't at least, and most probably won't, that have a consciousness that is of greed, of jealousy, of hate, of anger, going to ever be able, because they're just the wrong frequencies, right? It's the positive, negative, yin yang. You have the high levels of the spirit of the consciousness of humankind. You have the low levels. That's the like attracts like aspect of who you find yourself surrounded in without or within your life. So to attune yourself properly, you got to raise up enough past pride. Pride is the one place on that scale of consciousness where it's still kind of not the perfect place, because you can have bad pride, by being overly pompous and kind of egotistical. And then that shift begins to occur with self pride and caring about yourself. That next level up is love. And from there, you go up the levels of enlightenment to places that most humans haven't been. You can say Buddha, Mother Teresa, Jesus Christ, different spiritual teachers who have made who probably had, if not, were well above that enlightenment level. But for us, it's getting to that love, that place of self-love and love of others. It's not just about us. If we can attain that thought process, then that connection synchronizes on a daily basis. I like to say, take 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day of thinking about brain to heart, using that level of synchronicity around itself to then put out to the universe, guide me, show me what I need to do, put things into my life that I'm going to pay attention to and then take action on. So that's a simple meditation that, if you have enough consciousness to a right place in your life of love and care and genuine abundance for yourself and others, a simple meditation of just thinking about where you want to place that focus to be guided in life. That's how you begin, in my opinion, in my experience, with really working with the law of attraction.
So would you say for anyone that's in their head and dropping into their heart, open up your heart. Yes, love is the answer to everything. But for those that are going through some fear, some doubt, some anger, whatever it may be, all those lower vibrational frequencies, now they're in their head, they have all these thoughts ruminating in there. You're dropping in your heart. What are they feeling in their heart? And how are they processing through this? Because I know everyone's going through a different process when it comes to this. So could you give them just a general process of what they may experience or how they may feel?
Yeah, and it's very normal, first of all. I find myself there, even in this continued spiritual awakening as a human being. Emotions are our tools, they are things for us to look at. They are not us, but they are a piece of us. So I always tell people that the fear that we experience, the unknown aspects of life, what's going on, are things for us to pause and look at. I always teach, and I think you've probably heard this, many listeners on your show probably have heard this as well too. Life happens for us, not to us. And that's also a mindset shift where you remove yourself from the victim mentality. And even if something happened to you that was completely beyond your control, because those things do happen, you need to look at it, in my opinion, in my experience, of how is this impacting me? I can choose to have it be for me, or I can choose to have it be happening to me. And if it's happening to you, you then have that more victim mentality of woe is me. How come these things keep happening to me? And then instantly, by putting out that thought intention, you're already putting yourself on a frequency that, as you know, the spirit and universe, it's very practical. It's very matter of fact. It's going to give you continuously what you keep thinking on. If you think you don't have enough money, universe says, okay, you want more lack instead of abundance. So the 10% of things that you can't control in your life that happen to you randomly, that's okay. It's a part of life. We're here in the human playground, as I call it, to experience life and take everything, the good, the bad, the ugly that comes with it, and look at how you grow from it. So it's not easy. When people lose loved ones, we're going through a time right now where there's so many unknowns and questions and heartache. There's been many times in the past, before all this 2020 and 2021 COVID-19 stuff started, where we could look externally and say, why are these things happening to me?
Mhm.
Ultimately, it's all of our own journeys. It's all of our own paths. That's the beauty of it. That's the heartache of it. It's the human experience that's going to take us down different winding levels of twists and turns. So it's just not easy to answer for any one person. But when I come across people who suffer loss and trauma, there's never a place in my heart that doesn't feel for them. But my guidance is always rise above, realize what you have. You're living, you're breathing, you have a purpose. What do you do with this? Maybe you're getting this in your life, as hard as it is to take on, to experience it, to help other people that have had that same kind of trauma, heartache, or loss. It's all in how you choose what you're going through to persevere, move on, and better your soul, so that whatever comes after, whether it's future lives physically or into the non-physical, you're experiencing and learning and growing. That's what this is all about, in my opinion.
I hope you guys took notes on that one because that was really good. That was really good. Rise above whatever you are feeling at that moment, regardless of its fear, its doubt, guilt, shame, grieving, whatever it is, rise above it. Because at the end of the day, you don't have control of many things, but you have control of how you want to shift your mindset to something more empowering for you. And yes, life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. And the reason it happens for us is that you could recognize parts of yourself that are more empowering than your ego will allow you to see with your eyes. The ego is your worst enemy and your best friend. It is your greatest teacher, and it is, well, we won't get into what I would say to that part. But if you've listened to many podcasts, you realize what I call the ego on a daily basis because my friend and my frenemy. So, Ken, for anyone that is interested in starting to really tap into their mindset, really starting to want to create that change and rise above whatever situation that they're going through, what would be some steps that they could start taking right away?
Yeah, I think the most important step, and this is where I think I began my own work, was with the ego. The ego is that thing inside of us that most people hear, and they think it's that overly pompous, loudly outspoken part of the individual. It is those things, but it is also the thing that keeps us capped off. Its main point is to protect us. So that's why there's that lash out. That's why there's that knee jerk reaction. That's why when we get into moments of heated debate, we want to show people our perspective. That's the ego speaking. So I am far from perfect at this, but I have done a lot of work in the last 10 years through Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now,
Mhm.
A New Earth. Those are two great resources that I read early on that were like, yes, this is where I need to have my attention and focus. So I always say we have to start with the ego, because if you can't get past the egoic aspects, it's going to keep you gripped in fear, because its main goal is to protect us. The ego is a great thing. It creates our personality. It's a part of our psyche, but we have to remember that we're wired from many, many tens of thousands of years ago, where humankind was, in danger every single day, running from tribal enemies and wild animals and being hunted by who knows what was out there. But guess what? Our programming is still wired that way. So we have to figure out how to keep that ego in check. Start with that kind of work. And then I would just advise people to keep their hearts open. If they are working on that mind, heart, gut connection, you'll find where to go next. For me, I went down all kinds of rabbit trails. I got into the Hermetic principles. If you haven't heard of the Kabbalion, it is a book all about Hermeticism. There's 7 principles that I define as natural law, universal law, that teaches us how this reality that we live in works. And it's been said that the Kabbalion will find you when you're ready for it. So I offer it out as another great resource for people. That I keep a copy behind me. I don't know if those can see, or whoever watching this might be able to see. If not, this is all audio, that's fine. But find out a way to open your heart. Start with your ego, go from that point, and see where the universe takes you after that.
Yeah. It's so interesting that people say the ego keeps you safe. Now, I've had this, I don't want to say it's a debate, but I've had this great conversation with people, because in my meditation one day, I heard my spirit guide say to me, the ego does not keep you safe. It keeps you small. It keeps you compact. It keeps you in a place of familiarity. I can't even say that word, familiarity. So
Yeah.
if you find that that is a place of protection, to be familiar, then that's the ego's job. From what the spirit had told me after that was, the ego is there to compress you and not for you to recognize who you are. So it's not really a safe place, it's a comfortable place, because if you felt safe, you wouldn't feel fear, you wouldn't feel doubt. So when people say that, I often have this thought in my head. So if the ego keeps us safe, how is safety and security a place where we live in lack and limitation? Right? How is this safe place that we are shrunk? How is this a safe place that we have these fears of going outside? There's nothing safe about that. So I've had this question in my mind for the last month, and really thinking about when I have these conversations with people and they say, well, the ego keeps you safe. And I'm like, well, according to my spirit 3 weeks ago, it's not a safe place. It's a comfortable place. It's the spirit, when opening up your heart, that will keep you safe. So it's the spirit, it's your higher consciousness, it's your intuitive hits, it's your mind, when you have it wired properly, that will keep you safe. So I've been going down this rabbit hole with myself and having conversations with people on the podcast regarding the ego. And because it's an old program that it's there to keep you safe, I think we have to enter into this new program that the world is stepping into right now and saying, it's really not keeping you safe, it's keeping you small. If you want to feel safe, step into your spirit. Work with me on this one, because I'm trying to even make sense of what spirits are talking to me about this whole thing. So how do you feel about something like that? If you've been told the ego is there to keep you small, the ego is there to keep you comfortable, which, if you want to look at it, safe, compacted, and insecure within yourself. But if you step into your heart, which is the spirit, that is a place of safety and security and abundance and awareness, and those intuitive hints of something goes wrong, you're going to get something energetically giving you that pointer. I know that because I've been saved by a very bad car accident. I've been saved from being raped or killed in Boston,
Hmm.
all because I heard that intuitive hit. That is safety and security to me. The ego would have been scared and probably would have started running, which probably been the worst thing, where I faced my person face on when I went through it.
Yeah, let me try to give some more. So I'm glad that you're pausing on this, because it's the human language or interpretation, I guess, or the English perspective of what safety is. So let's define that a little bit more, and how I like to define it. I think your terminology is actually more well put. It's not about safety. It is about comfort. It keeps us in a a space that is defined, that's consistent, that's not going to change, that's not going to cause us too much um, heartache or uncomfortability. So when I say safe, it's not so much from harm, it's safe from stretching yourself. It's safe from getting out of that comfort zone into your heart. And one of the best books I've read recently in the last couple of years was Gay Hendricks' The Big Leap. His
Love
book
it.
is all about how do you get out of the zone of excellence, which is comfortability. It all feels good. You got probably a good living, you have a family, but something doesn't feel right. You may feel hollow inside. There's a calling out there saying you might need to be doing more, but you have the risk of, what if I got to start a new job? What if I have to take that big move? You might need to do those things in order to get into your zone of genius, which is the level of higher purpose, heart, spirit, consciousness, the thing that we're here to do on this world. And again, in my belief system, we chose to come here. Okay. It wasn't random. We're here for a purpose, and we can, through free will, choose to fulfill that purpose in this lifetime and go on to the next, or have to come back maybe, or choose to come back because we left it on the table. The ego part of the human, that is a great thing to protect us and keep us comfortable, also is the limitation that we have before us, because it will try to restrict us, because it doesn't want us to feel hurt, heartache, loss, failure. So its natural instinct is, don't do those things, because if you don't do those things, well, then you can't feel the heartache. But it's a paradox. We have to push through that. Through that pushing is where we grow, experience, become our truest selves, and fulfill our life's purposes. That's, in my opinion, the difference.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from on that one, but I feel like right now with everything that's going on in the world, I think there's a lot of shifting that's happening in the energy realm as well. Obviously there is, because we're both one. We're all together. And I find that when we are leaving an old story, an old paradigm, or an old mentality, especially right now, because we're looking at making these huge leaps, especially in the spirit world. This has been spiritual warfare for the last 19 months, however long we've been in this joke. But if we continue on that same topic, or the same conversation, the same words, I find that we're going to get the same outcome. And that's why I think this intuitive hit came to me to say, hey, let's not talk about the ego being safe, because you're not expanding people, you're actually compressing them to say, I'm just in a safe place right now. And I like what your interpretation was about safety and security. And Guy Hendricks' book, that Leap, Take a Leap, was a great book. I read it a few years ago, actually. And it's a
Yeah.
great book that talks about the ego and how to get over the ego and really use your ego to your highest good. But for those that are experiencing this pain and suffering, I know, because I've been down depression, and I know how hard it is to get out of that sense of depression. And you're in that place of ego, but at the same time, realizing that at the end of the day, if I don't get myself out of this hole, that I'm allowing this darkness to come over me, then, and that doesn't feel safe, because I don't know where I'm going to pay my bills next. My mortgage is coming out. There's not a dime in my pocket. I don't know where I'm going to get food. So if we want to look at that part of the ego as, being comfortable, then go ahead. But we have to look at now the world that we're living in. I think we have to move on a more expansive level. And this is where I think I'm starting to dig into it. So I'm glad that you brought this up, and I'm glad we're having this conversation, because this is how we all learn and grow and develop, is when we hear different ways or definitions of how people describe certain things. And this is something that's been sitting with me for so long. And I asked another podcast guest, and she was like, I have to think about that. I don't know. It's so interesting the way you said it. So I thought I'd get some more feedback on it and see what people thought about it. And it's really about expanding our expression of self and not being so confined, because in this confinement, we're not having what we need right now for the earth to shift on such a greater level. It's slowly happening, but what Spirit's saying is that if we change this vibration, if we change the way we're saying certain things, it could happen much quicker. I don't know how that's going to work. I'm just the messenger.
I'm totally with you, though. We are a part of a spiritual evolution right now. I believe that we've evolved as much physically as we can, as far as taking the world physically any better than where it's at. We've got 7.5 billion people on this planet. Everybody's at a different point of enlightenment, but there's a wake up happening that is all around us. It's happening
Yeah.
faster and faster. It's taken a while to get here. it's been, in my opinion, probably decades long, but it's
Mhm,
been very sped up, it feels like, in
mhm,
my opinion. And maybe it's just my perspective, but with all the confusion going on that in the world, and you can put yourself into whatever aisle or side that you want to be a part of. I try my best to be above all those things too, and just say, this is a part of the process through which humankind must experience. If we're going to become our truest and most best selves possible, it needs to begin with the conscious spirit that's inhabiting this body, this
mhm,
form, this vessel. When we can think on that level, the impact around the world and for all of humankind is going to be exponential. So I embrace all of this stuff, as crazy as it is, and as hurtful as it can be, and as hard as it is. It is all a matter of how you choose to look at it. And I think that we're going through necessary parts that we need to look at deep within, to your point, in order to get to our truest selves and what humankind is really representative or representative of being or becoming. So that's the trick to it. It's not an easy road. It wasn't meant to be, but that's a
mhm.
part of the game that we're playing right now.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I just speaking, I hear you guys chose to be on the earth right there, right now. So it was your choice to be there. So now it's how you work the system, which the system is an energetic system. Really, at the end of the day, it's how you work the system. Is either you're going to stay in it longer, or you guys are going to get yourselves out of it. I'm getting goosebumps in this whole conversation. My whole body's shivering. It's like, wow, okay, so we're going to get into this topic. So it's a great place to start, I think, when we tap into it, the ego spirit. So for anyone that is still confused on the ego is fear, doubt, shame, guilt. But the ego could also be what I call my ego sometimes is my security guard. And I'm going to tell you guys this: when I came out of depression, I had a conversation with depression, which is also part of your ego. So depression to me is the absence of the spirit and the rise of the ego. So when I was going through depression, I had a conversation one day with depression. I said, Depression, you and I are over. We're never going to get married again. We're going through a divorce. As of today, we are not in marriage anymore. We are not even separated. We are fully divorced. And what happened when I was about to hit down the same path, I don't know what was going on in my life at one point, my ego came to me and said, Hey, just a heads up, your emotions are rumbling down the path of depression. So you have the choice of what you want to do. I find that's the safety and security of your ego. When you learn how to utilize your ego to your advantage, that's how I found my ego protected me. And then my spirit just rises up tenfold. Because when we have this beautiful balance within ourselves, like Ken said, it starts off with the mind, and then through the mind and the law of attraction, we go into the energetic field. You start to realize that if I were to raise myself above one emotion every day, you will come to that place of self-realization and self-awareness and self-knowingness, and then everything else around you won't even really matter at the end of the day. So
That
how
is
could
true.
people, yeah, thank you. So how could people change their shifting when it comes to business, clientele, and money? Because those are the things that everybody wants, right? So business, clientele, and money. How does one change their mindset towards that?
It really is back to the point, and we can elaborate more on this because I love that question. It is the universal law, in my opinion, of how this stuff works. My experience as well, too. I come from a background of very, very little. Parents were on welfare, divorced, food stamps, a part of the government assistance programs in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, outside of that city where I was born and raised. And I was raised in a society or in a family background of lack, want, desire, hopelessness. And my parents, God bless them, didn't know any better. So it was through my own learnings that said, universe, spirit works very practically, however you frame up your perspective. Those two most powerful words in the English language or whatever other language they're a part of, I am, what follows is what you are going to become. So, yes, affirmations are good, changing your thought process is good, but we have to just begin to realize this is universal law and natural law, universal law, whatever you want to call it. We are frequencies. The brain in our heads are putting off frequencies. I always explain this as we are a radio tower. And just like in a radio station, it's constantly broadcasting out radio frequencies. You don't hear them unless you attune to them. If you turn on the radio and you put it on whatever favorite radio station you have, or Sirius XM, whatever people are listening to these days, you hear it. but it's always broadcasting. So our thoughts, our minds are always broadcasting and always receiving in this natural law world. If we want to have more success, if we want to have more abundance, more money, it helps to come from a place of genuine, sincere want, love, desire, because I think those frequencies will reward you quicker because I believe in the light over the dark. But the universe is very, very practical, in my opinion. It's very matter of fact.
Mhm.
You can get money through the wrong ways.
Mhm.
Now, do you want to go down those paths of darkness and manipulation and wherever it may take you? That's your choice. But if you come from a place of true love, heartfelt care, genuine integrity, and you say and know and embody that you are abundance and can have whatever you want in this world, realize it's not going to come to you always in one day. Some things do take longer, but you're putting the ball in motion. We live in a physical reality that's slowed down from the non-physical. But the everyday thoughts, they do manifest and they do bring into your existence the opportunities that you then choose to take or not take. That could be career moves, that could be promotions, that could be loss in your family. It's so crazy how it happens. And that's why I say when you put out the desire that you want something, you have to think it in the current moment. You have to think it presently. I am abundant. I am successful. I am full of XYZ. Believe it, not just I want it, because the universe says, okay, you want it. We'll give it to you at some point in the future. It's so practical.
Mhm.
But the changes that will occur in your life, they're going to be confusing at times. It might be a big life change that you have to take. And if you don't take it, the universe brought the opportunity in front of you, and through your own power of free will, you chose not to take it. Just realize those thoughts, they manifest every single day, but it starts with the right mindset of I am abundance, I am success, I am happy, I am purposeful. Putting out that intention will bring those things into your life if you choose to act on them.
Mhm. It's really the cause and effect. What you put out there is going to come basically right back at you. That's the law of cause and effect, y'all.
Which is
So
also a part of the Hermetic teachings, cause and effect. That is
exactly,
absolutely a
exactly,
part of it.
exactly. So we talk about the Moses code, the I am. So for everyone that is saying like I am successful, I'm abundant, but they're saying it and you're saying to believe it, but they don't believe it. That's a huge problem.
It is.
One thing that I always tell people to do when they're going through that I am abundant is really forget about believing it. I want you to feel it. I said, but if you could feel it, you feel what success feels like, then you'll start believing it, and that's when it'll start showing up. Because when I went through coming out of the hole, there was a part of me that I was basically working my brain and working my brain in 21 days. Tons of things happened. Actually, it took me about 40 days to realize what I was doing. And when I worked on my mindset, I kept saying, I am this and I am that. And then my ego would say, you are not that, you are this.
Got
And
to
I
quiet that ego, man. That dang ego. It always comes back up trying to bite us and hold us down. That's
right.
that piece, though. You're so right, though, Zach. It's going to be that inner critic, and we have to learn to silence that inner critic. And what I'll say to it, just real briefly, is when those thoughts come up, do a cancel out effect. One of the interviews I've done recently on my podcast, I had a guest that was very good. Robert Riopol, I think his name was. He taught about the negative critic inside of you. When you hear it, it's cancel, cancel, cancel. Because realize you're broadcasting that out. So if you think it because your ego is trying to flare it up, tell yourself, I cancel that thought. Cancel, cancel, cancel. That's how he explained it. And I've been doing that because the critic will bite all of us. Cancel that thought. Do not broadcast it. It's going to come into your mind, but tell it to cancel out. You are abundant. And then go right back to the different polar opposite of what it's telling you. Cancel the negative and affirm the positive in the present.
So I love that you did it that way. I did it a whole different way when it came to my rewiring. So when I heard that you are not, like, I'd be like, I am worthy of success. And I hear you're not worthy of success. And I would say this because I didn't want to cancel. I didn't want to have this argument with the ego. I would say, you may feel like I wasn't worthy of my success. However, as of today, we are so worthy of success and we're going to be successful. And the more that I went on that kind of a route, I found that my mind was shifting so much quicker, and to the point where this is Ken, where I blew my brains out, like talking about law of attraction, talking about the inner critic, talking about that. There was a time I was sitting and writing something, and I'll never forget this. And it comes this thought, you can't do that. And I didn't even entertain that thought. And all of a sudden, out of blue comes, what makes you think I can't do that? And I was like, oh, there's two gazoos, a good and a bad one, and they're both speaking to each other. And guess what? I don't need to do anything about it, because the one is programmed so powerfully that it's taking out the lower vibrational one on its own.
That's beautiful. And that's another great way to look at it. I think I like your way better. I think it's about what does work. And I think it's through some of that trial and error. Perhaps it's different for everybody. But Zach, hearing your perspective of allowing spirit, your soul, to be the overarching power that will totally effectively consume you into what you want to be and just absolutely crush whatever else is there. I like that aspect better. So I think it's very much true as far as taking the right action as you embody yourself into what you want to become. It's kind of like working out, and trying to put yourself in the best physical shape. It has to begin with a mindset. So as you begin to think yourself and embody those things, the choices that you take, instead of eating that ice cream before bed, you say, you know what, how about just a glass of water? Or if I must have a snack, maybe a piece of fruit. Those small little steps start with the mindset piece that will cancel out effectively or rewire that negative into a more positive affirmation. So great perspective. I'm glad you shared it.
I like that you mentioned that, because I was that person yesterday. I think I could eat ice cream before I go to bed.
Constant battle for me too. Trust me.
The funny thing is, I don't have ice cream in my house for that reason.
And that's probably the better way to go about it.
Because I could eat the whole thing in one sitting.
Same.
So Ken, for anyone that's going through a hard time right now, what would be some advice you could give them?
Well, I would say there's a lot of people going through hard times right now, and look at it again as life happening for you, not to you. Take yourself and remove yourself from the victim mentality, as hard as it might actually be, and realize that this is a life worth living. It's a life worth examining. I think Socrates said that at some point in time, his famous words, a life worth living is a life worth examining. So take a step back and examine what's happening to you. You can change everything, not everything, a lot of things. I'd say 90% of the stuff that happens in your life is within your control. And if that 10% that isn't in your control was happening, and you can genuinely look at yourself in the mirror and say, I did nothing to cause this, then you have still the power of choice in how you respond to it. But the 90% of things that I do believe are within your control, do some personal reflection. I do it daily. Sadly, a lot of people don't do it probably but yearly. And I think that's the key here, is to make time, a couple minutes a day of silence and solitude, and just reflect and offer up that intention of heart brain connection. Raise yourself in consciousness to be guided in the right direction. If you're especially going through a tough place right now, realize that you're not alone. That's the beauty of all of this. Even if you're isolated, not traveling as much, don't have family or friends around you, those social connections help, but you're never alone. You have a higher self, you have a connection to the source that helped bring you here. And it's not something you have to sit through prayer and only externally just hope that it's answered. You have a constant connection. That's the beauty of it. So realize that and empower yourself to realize that you're going through this for a reason of betterment or a purpose that you can define and make so much more impact within the world. That's what we're all here for. And we all will suffer heartache and loss at one point or another. It's how we choose to move forward with it.
That's a rewind. That's a whole rewind, guys. If you didn't listen to everything that Ken really said there to change your life, rewind it right now, 2-3 minutes, and listen to that over, because really, he just gave you a formula that you may not think is a formula, because you're expecting an answer that may feel a little easier. This work is not easy. It's worth it. And if things came easy, they were never worth it. So what Ken gave you there was a formula to get you out of the darkness. And I'm getting goosebumps all over my body again, because it was such a beautiful formula that when you go back, listen to it with an open heart. Get out of your head of your ego saying you can't do this, or get out of your head with whatever your ego is telling you, and step into your heart and your knowingness that you could create that change. Exactly what Ken said there. That was a formula for success in any part of your personal life or your professional life. So thank you for that, Ken. That was really good. I really like that.
You are welcome.
What would you tell your younger self today?
I would tell my younger self to just slow down, to reflect a little bit more. I wish I would have done more of what I do today, what I did back then. I had to learn through some of my own heartache of trying to control more than I should have. Life is about letting things flow and realizing that there's a grand scheme here if you are intentfully using that connection of intuition to your higher self. I worked myself to a point of unhealthiness for a while. I was constantly anxious, stressed out, high blood pressure, had a lot of problems that were just self induced. And it was all about that chip on the shoulder, need to prove myself. And if I would have known what I know now, I would have realized I probably could have been in a place even quicker in my life with less stress. So for me, it's just about there's a grand plan that we are helping manifest by every choice that we make. And we do not need to try to over control things. And that's a big piece, I guess, again, of that ego is just trying to say, I can do this all myself. I can prove to the world that this is right or that's right. So no matter what's happening, whether it's in your career or in the world right now, just control what you have control of and let the plan unfold, always staying above it, but being ever present in watching. Don't put your head in the sand, but just watch and learn from what life is teaching you. So I've slowed down a lot in life, and I put most of my work into where my passion and intent is telling me to place it, which is this kind of work. Corporate space that I'm still a part of, as well as this mindfulness space. This is what I love. So this to me isn't work, and I'm just letting things flow. And that's what I would have told myself 20 years ago if I could have, but thankfully I'm learning it now.
Yeah, it's never too late to learn. You sound like a high achiever. So what would you tell those high achievers out there that are running themselves to the ground?
Well, depending on what it is that you're trying to accomplish, realize that you do have people around you that can help you and that there are resources out there. Being a high achiever is not just about working yourself into the ground. You have to take time. You cannot be fulfilling your purpose if you yourself are not well. And yes, I've been able to achieve a lot from little, but that is, in my opinion, through a lot of the inner reflection and work and watching and interconnectedness that I'm learning about the universe. So if you want to achieve more in life, you can have it, but you can have so much more if you implore these practices that Zach is talking about, that I'm talking and trying to teach about here myself too. It's just not about nose to the grindstone 18 hours a day. You can achieve success that way, but one day you're going to look back and say, what did I leave on the table? And then you're going to feel that hollowness inside. So realize that you can fulfill your life's purpose and have a lot of success and happiness if you attune yourself to what matters most to you in life. The universe will put into place the things that you need if you're observant of them to guide you in the right direction. So you can achieve a lot. You don't have to work 18 hours a day to do it, is what I would tell people. Slow down, control what you have control of.
Oh, that brings me to the next question, because I wasn't going to go down that path, but as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, you can't tell high achievers to slow down first and foremost, because they're adrenaline junkies for if it's to get like the next contract, to get that next paycheck, to get that next position. So for telling a high achiever to slow down, let's go down there, because they're the ones that are driving themselves. Adrenal glands are burnt out. They're in fight or flight. Their minds are always going. How would a high achiever just slow down?
It's not something that's very easy to do, but what I would try to liken it back to is that we have to just realize that things sometimes come to us without the effort. And what I mean by that is you can't just not take action. Okay. What I'm learning is that, at least in my business now where I'm at a place now where I have to lead other people corporately. So in my corporate space, if I worked 18 hours a day, it's not going to net me a whole lot more of success because I have to entrust upon others. So I think it's about recognizing where you're at in that career. Early on, when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, and just starting off, yeah, it was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of front end effort, as I call it. But that front end effort can't last your entire life, or else you're not going to have a whole lot left to give, in my opinion. So it comes down to, if you take a step back and just say, what all am I trying to over control? Where should I step into my own genius and allow myself to be the best at what I'm capable of becoming? That's how you slow down. Let the people who are around you, who are the experts at the accounting or at the HR or the marketing or whatever it is, do those things. Step into your zone of genius, your zone of brilliance, employ yourself in that aspect. The work will feel more purposeful versus the daily grind. So I did a lot of that at a young age. And right now I'm still very purposeful. I still work probably 8 to 10 hours a day, but it feels probably more like 4 hours because what I'm doing is so much more purposeful, so much more intentful. So I don't know if that answers your question, but to me, that's where I would try to apply the focus and the difference between how much work can you do, should you be doing, and are you in your zone of genius, or are you just bogged down with cumbersome chores that you know somebody else could be doing? So that takes some self-analyzing to look at. Everyone's scenario is different, but that would be my advice on it.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, to pass the torch to someone else to do things that really you shouldn't be doing because your intention is not as strong there, but to pass that torch on to someone else to do the things that take away from your time, to give you that opportunity to slow down, I think is a great way of saying that. Absolutely.
And take a break from time to time. Remember to pamper yourself, okay? Take some time off, find your own thing, whatever that is. A bottle of wine on the back deck somewhere, staring off into nature. Doesn't have to be big, grandiose vacations, but rest is a part of the human experience that our body needs to help us stay sharp, live a long, happy, healthy life, and fulfill our purposes.
Yeah, rest. That's so true. A lot of people don't look at rest as such a big thing because they want to be these achievers. Less sleep, more work, more money, less sleep, more work, more. I think that's ludicrous. I think that's not even using the universe to your advantage, and you're allowing your ego to lead that, because when I've had things come to me, they've just flown out of the sky to the point I'm like, man, that was, let me hit my button. That was easy. Like,
Yes.
that was
The best.
easy.
Give me more easy buttons in my life, please. I'll take them and press them all day long.
Right. So that's the, so we're coming to the end of our show. I just want to ask you a couple more questions if you're okay with that.
Sure, absolutely. Fire away.
Awesome. So what is a piece of advice you give to anyone right now? Some nugget information they could take with themselves.
Well, knowing what we're going through right now in the world, I would just continue to tell people to pause, take a breath, observe, and feel through your intention what is right. There's a lot of stuff out there, and there's a lot of people in my space. I'm in the restaurant business currently. I'm also in this mindfulness practice and teaching space. That the way I navigate these things, Zach, and this is my opinion and my experience. I put out that intention to the universe again through that heart brain connection. And I say, show me the truth that I need to see. Now, there's a difference in how that feeling comes to you. If you're really aligned, you're going to get that gut instinct of what to pay attention to and what not to pay attention to. And there's so many points of misinformation, disinformation. This side says that they're right. This side says that they're right. Put out the intention to the spirit, to the universe, the one all knowing, to guide you. You'll know in your heart what actions to take. That's my advice for what's going on right now.
That's some great advice, really, at the end of the day. There's no sides here. This is a spiritual experience in a human realm. That's basically what we're talking about here. A spiritual experience in this human realm. So the more that you tap into your higher consciousness, the source light, the almighty, the infinite,
Yes.
that's when you start to recognize different parts of you. So what does self-love mean to you, Ken?
Self-love is one of the most important things that there is. It's knowing that we have this physical form right now that we've been granted as a vessel to fulfill a purpose that we need to care for. We need to be appreciative of. Look in the mirror no matter what you are and say that you love yourself. That goes physical and non-physical. I love the energy that my soul and spirit higher self gives me. I love the body that I've been given. I haven't always, I've had to work at it, but even whenever I got to places where I wasn't happy, I've learned to reframe my mindset. long story short, I'll make it real brief. About 2 years ago, I was getting unhealthy and it was out of proportion and out of balance. I'd gotten up to about 250 pounds. I weigh about 190. So I lost 60 pounds in 6 months.
Wow.
Nothing crazy. I didn't do anything like crash dieting. I did stop drinking a lot of soda and fried foods, put 45 minutes of physical activity into my life every morning for 2 straight years now. I've not missed it. Drink a lot more water and looked myself in the mirror and literally said, I love this body that the source, the sacred, the divine, and myself chose to come into to fulfill this purpose. That to me is what self-love really is looking at it from that dimensional aspect of spirit, soul, consciousness, mind, body, soul. Caring for yourself and knowing you're here for a higher purpose is what this life's about. So you got to love that. Otherwise, why are you here?
That is the deepest answer I've ever gotten to that question. I love
Well,
it.
you're
I
just
love it.
from the heart. So it's just
From the
it's
heart.
where it
Yeah.
came from. Yeah, I just don't know how else to answer it from any other way. It's just through my own
No.
experiences. So
No, that was the most perfect way to answer it because that's the way you were supposed to answer it. There's no right or wrong, but that was the deepest answer that I've heard. And I mean, I've asked that question to quite a few people because I'm curious to, what does self-love mean to people? So I've often asked that question, but you get certain answers and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's typical. But when you get an answer like yours, that was a deep answer. Again, guys, if you didn't really get that, like absorb it in your cells, because Ken's taking you guys on a little interdimensional journey of self-discovery right now through this whole podcast. That's why I keep on saying rewind and listen and take note and really feel it, because he really took us on this interdimensional perspective of self. We've both been going on this journey. We just allowed spirit to flow through. But his answer, what self-love is really what a lot of people are dealing with. Doesn't matter if you're male or female. Many people have body dysmorphia within their mind. And the more that you say, I love me, whichever way I can, or whatever things that are coming to you, and you have to bring love to yourself, things change instantly. And as Ken said, 6 months, he lost that weight. And congratulations to that. That's amazing.
thanks, Zach. Yeah, I've been told I'm a kind of a deep person. I just can't help it. I
I love
am
it.
I am what I am. I'm as deep as the caverns can possibly go, I guess. But no, thank you for that.
No, that's incredible. I could have these deep conversations with people all the time because I
Me
don't
too.
really get them on a regular basis. And when I do, I love just getting right deep into them. But I could get lost in the abyss of energy and mindfulness and all this stuff and spirit and get into it. But a lot of people, when we have these answers and we tell people, like, go deep within yourself, a lot of people get stuck on the surface. And so when I say certain questions, even asking just regular clients or asking podcasters or just asking people on the street, they give me surface and I'll say, okay, I'll be back in 15 minutes. Go a little deeper. Like, go a little deeper, because you're not going to find yourself on the surface. So having this conversation with you is beautiful because you're finding yourself, you're recognizing yourself. I mean, you're never lost. Well, I don't know. Are we? We're here.
Yeah,
So
I don't know if we ever are. I think we're all right where we're supposed to be. It's just the
exactly.
recognition, it's the awakening that really propels you forward in life. And that's what I'm hoping to bring. And I know that Zach, you are too, to more of the world. So, I'm thrilled to have these kind of conversations, and I can have them all day too, because this is what I love to do. I really do.
Yeah. This is amazing. Thank you, Ken, for being on the podcast. Thank you for sharing your light, your wisdom, your story, your deep conversation, because we need to have these deep conversations and get away from the surface conversation that's going out there in the world. So thank you so much for your presence today.
You are very welcome. It is what I love to do. So thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for listening. To get a hold of Ken, everything that he owns, his socials, his website will be in the show notes below. Also, join us in the Empress Hangout, which is our private Facebook group. We continue the conversation over there, talking about spirituality, mindfulness, and how to tap into something greater within ourselves. Also, like us on Instagram. Until next time, have yourself a great day. Stay positive, stay true to yourself, and work through that ego and feel safe in your spirit. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.